How's it going, YouTube? My name is Ninja7, your resident Mistweaver monk, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at a plus 16 Theater of Pain that I did with a full caster build. So really quick, I'm going to point out that this is the damage meters from a key that I did with a standard Chi build. It was a plus 16 Theater of Pain, all the same. And these are the stats at the end of the dungeon with a full-on caster build. You can see damage, very competitive. I've been trying to optimize this build as much as I can, like push this build to its limits, and a lot of you guys have been asking me to talk through one of my dungeons. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, before we kind of get into it, I do want to say I don't play perfectly in this video, but this is the build that we're rocking in today's video, and I have done so much exploration within a similar talent tree, trying to optimize the talents, and I've tried so many different things. A lot of you guys were telling me that I should try with crackling jade lighting or jade empowerment, and I have done that. It's just that when you run rushing wind kick, you lose a lot of that value. Rushing wind kick is in the same spot as Jade Fire Teachings, and Jade Fire Teachings is what enables Jade Empowerment to be a powerful heal. You see here on pool, I know that Mighty Smash is coming out, so I do what I can to slow down that Raging Tantrum guy. I use my own Soothe on him, and then pop Yulon to heal through this big burst of healing at the start of the dungeon. This first part of this pool, I'm sure you guys have encountered it a ton, is the most dangerous part of this fight. Well, one of the two. That is the other of the two, Searing Death. A lot of this fight is trying to get you to kind of stack up, and Searing Death is designed to try to one-shot you if you're stacked. But luckily this build, it does have a lot of strengths, and it also has a lot of weaknesses. I'm finding, like with all the exploration that I've been doing with this build, I've been trying to compare and contrast it with the standard Chi build, and you're kind of seeing one of its strengths and weaknesses at the same time. It doesn't have as much passive throughput as a Chi build. Like right now, I'm punching and kicking, trying to do as much damage as I can. The Chi build would have a lot of passive healing happening. Here, I'm having to actually Soothing Mist to make up for that. So instead of constantly having damage, constantly having healing like the normal Chi build does, this build I have to kind of flip-flop and match the incoming damage of the enemies. So you'll see here during times like this, I have to stop and heal. But during times like now that everyone's full health, I can actually sit there and do damage, or I guess in this case, drink Mana Tea. But yeah, this whole fight is about keeping these two dots alive, which I'm doing before that Mighty Smash, making sure that I swap to Soothing Mist that ally before that Mighty Smash goes off. That way that me and him both get the Soothing Mist damage reduction from Elusive Mists. But other than this boss is pretty much done. We just have to be careful about another Searing Death, which here it comes. Luckily, this build allows me to kind of like dip out if I need to and spot heal here. I stupidly lose someone. I mean, I can go back, but this was 100% my fault. The frontal did aim at me. This is only, like, I'm not going to go back too often, but the frontal does aim at me, and unfortunately, my Shayloons doesn't go off in time. I do have to roll out of the frontal. I wish I would have Shayloons now for safety, but instead I was Soothing Misting. And once again, this is one of the first few days that I was trying out a build similar to this. So I was still getting used to everything and how urgent everything was. When I need to Soothing Mist, when I need to Shayloons, like that kind of stuff. So that was my fault of a death. And you'll see, I think like 1 or 2 other deaths in this dungeon do occur because I think something I could have done better. But I did have the right idea. I did swap my Soothing Mist to that ally. I think I just thought that Soothing Mist would be enough. I didn't think I didn't, you know, calculate that damage right. But you'll see here we made it through that fight with about half mana, so pretty good mana management. And a lot of that is because I've learned through practice and reps with this build that, like I said, you don't have a lot of passive healing, but you really have to lean into that passive healing when it's time to. So when there's no boss mechanics or no dungeon mechanics that are really doing AoE damage, really lean into those hots, lean into your trinket healing, lean into the little bit of ancient teachings healing that you get from like rushing wind kick. But you see here, we're coming into this pool. This pool's very scary when you pull all 4 of these mobs, but I'm trying to burn down this Arbalist as fast as I can. And keep that Jagged Quarreled ally as topped as possible. So there I slap a cocoon on him before that Mighty Bash or that big AoE. And I'm just Soothing Mist to spread hots. And then I'm just punching and kicking, letting the hots basically be the passive healing that I have while I'm damaging right now. But yes, it's not passive. I did have to actively apply those hots. But just trying to keep my hots applied. And I'm allowing people to sit at like 80% health because I know that little bit of Ancient Teachings healing will top them up before the next interrupting roar. But for the most part, I'm doing the same thing that I do on my standard build. I'm just getting more damage out of it because I'm running Rushing Wind Kick. So I'm Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick. But notably, notice that with this build, you don't necessarily have to refresh your Jadefire Stomp every now and then, because I'm not watching a 15-second Ancient Teachings timer, Jadefire Teachings timer. The only thing I'm doing is, like, if I need to move that Jadefire Stomp, I will. Like here, I'll probably put another one down because my other one is back there. But if I wanted to, I could just dip my toes into it to maintain its buffs. But that kind of is an upside. You don't have to Jadefire Stomp too often. But yeah, single target, that fight is like super easy as long as I top up the one person. You see our damage is still pretty good. It's very competitive. Now, where we're going to lose damage with this build is when I do have to actively heal for an entire pool, which you will see that, which is a major weakness with this build and why I don't think it's quite as competitive as Chi-Ji or like the normal build. Because the normal build, like during pools like this, I could sit here in Chi-Ji and I'm both damaging and doing a ton of healing at the same time. But with this build, you see I'm stuck in a Soothing Mist trying to compete with this heavy single target damage. Doing 0 damage, like I'm barely doing any damage. But that's another reason why Rushing Wind Kick is so crucial to this build, because it does so much damage at once that Rushing Wind Kicking off cooldown kind of adds up to an okay amount of like passive damage in a way. But here, now that the Arbellis is the only threat alive, I'm just single target focusing this thing down. Probably gonna touch a death it. I guess not. But yeah, at this point, it's single target healing, but we can just let our passive hots and Ancient Teachings do the rest of the job. But you see what I mean? Like a lot of this build, a lot of understanding of this build is understanding when you can get away with letting like your smaller, like much smaller passive healing get the job done, or when you need to actively Soothing Mist and spread hots and do that kind of thing. And this boss is going to be a great example of leaning into that small amount of healing when you know you don't need to do a ton of healing. So here I'm literally AFK. I don't know why I took that long to drink mana and I Soothing Mist, but I want to keep my tank nice and healthy for the tank buster. But this boss is a great example of when this build is very solid, like actually kind of worth playing, because there's not much healing that needs to be done. Like whenever I have to roll out of that big circle, I can do like one Vivify, my free instant Vivify. Other than that, I don't need to waste globals doing Jadefire Stomp. Other than that one's kind of went into the wall. But I can kind of just sit there and use that same Jadefire Stomp and Tiger Palm, Rushing Wind Kick, Blackout Kick over and over and over. Dumping my Aspect Dot into the boss, and then just using my big slamming Rushing Wind Kicks on the banner. And you see 1.8 million damage there to the banner and the boss. That's crazy damage. Use Touch of Death there. I'm only running 3-minute Touch of Death, so probably a bit too early to use the Touch of Death, but you see here, like, I don't need to be doing any healing. Arguably, I probably should be slapping some hots on the tank here, but really, like, my passive regen is enough to just, like, top people up before the next jump of the boss. Like, you have so much time. You just got to focus that tank. Like, you can't let the tank go down. I guess while I keep doing this cycle, because I'm literally just going to do the same thing. I'm dumping my dot into the boss, slamming some Rushing Wind Kicks into the banner. While I do this, I want to talk about the Jade statue. So the reason why I'm playing Jade statue, look, I'll admit, it is not that great. It barely does any healing. But at the end of this dungeon, I'll show you the overall healing done, and you'll see that there's a lot of different small sources of healing that add up to get the healing job done. It's not like the Chi-Ji build where only Ancient Teachings is a healing source. There are so many little things that add up, and one of the strengths of this build, I would argue, over the Chi-Ji build, which there really aren't that many, but one of them is that I'm playing heavily into my hots, heavily into Soothing Mist, and I am playing the statue. So technically, I do have more spot healing that I can put on someone in an instant. So I have basically one more hot than the Chi-Ji build, but really that's not that deep. But you'll see, like, every now and then I'll tap my Soothing Mist just to apply it to the tank, because that Jade Serpent statue will start a full channel even if you just tap your Soothing Mist. So if you just Soothing Mist the tank for like half a second, the Jade statue will kind of like tether to the tank for a full Soothing Mist duration. It's really cool. But that's also another thing that I'm doing to hot up these guys to full health while I just sit there and do damage, is I'm just like applying a Renewing Mist to them, and then that Rushing Wind Kick will just enhance that Renewing Mist. I'm tapping my Soothing Mist on them. That Jade statue will kind of help pour some hots into them. So really just relying on that passive healing, the little bit that this build has when you compare it to the Chi-Ji build on a boss like this. And I'm just pumping damage. I mean, you look at the damage meters, I am going insane, which, look, the other build does. That, you know, that's why people bring Mistweavers to high keys, because we do huge damage. But when you combine, like when you sacrifice something as major as Jadefire Teachings for Rushing Wind Kick, like something that does so much damage, like it has to be worth it. And here you see I did 1,000,000 overall DPS. Pretty crazy. Look at how much of that DPS was Rushing Wind Kick. And mind you, I've done this exact build, but instead of 2 points into Secret Infusion, I've put 1 point into Jade Empowerment just for the Crackling Jade Lightning damage. And I've gotten this damage even higher. So whenever I do that boss with the same build, but with Jade Empowerment instead of 2 points in Secret Infusion, I did like 1.2 million DPS because I was Crackling Jade Lightning every banner. So crazy damage available in this build. But like I said, there is a lot of sacrifice. And it takes a lot of reps to understand like when you're able to sit here and do damage. And like a pool like this size, I can basically do what you do with the Chi-Ji build and just spinning crank. Well, the Chi-Ji build with a conduit style build. But here I'm spreading hots because I saw just how close everyone came to dying there from that big burst. And I'm rushing wind kicking to get good damage off, but also extend those hots, which is very important. And then I'm just going to spin. I'm just going to spin. Oh, I guess do my single target rotation. You see there, a pool like that, I probably would have done a lot more damage with the Chi-Ji build. But granted, I probably would have popped Chi-Ji and just spun anyways and done like 1.4 million damage. But all in all, 0 deaths on that pool. I take that. That's a huge dub. It's a pretty scary pool too, but we did lust it. But here you're going to see my thick, torn thighs. Oh, I see myself taking damage. My thick, torn thighs. I pull the gas bag and I die. Luckily, though, only I aggroed it. So this is another stupid death, but this has nothing to do with the build, I'll argue. Very stupid death, though. I hate dying when you're just like, did I really just die to that? It's so stupid. Like, I hate those deaths. But here, every time that I enter like a new zone, the first thing I do is slap down that totem just because it's free healing. And especially in a build like this, you do technically get more value out of it in this build than the other build, the Chi-Ji build. It's still not like the most insane value. There's really no... but the thing is, there's no downside to taking it. There's no talent that I'm giving up to take it because it's on the class tree. You'll see here, this is probably, I would argue, this is the most spooky pull of the whole dungeon. When you pull this gas bag in with this pack without lust. But you see here, I'm just trying to blanket hots. So I'm using that peer into peace value, spreading enveloping mist, and then I'm extending them with those rushing wind kicks. And I'll try to dump my dot into the gas bag, so I want that guy dead as quickly as possible. And then now that my hots have gone away, I try to go for a Soothing Mist into a Revival, like a Soothing Mist, Vivify, then Revival. But I should have just pressed Revival. Still there, I have no idea. I've watched it back like 20 times. No clue what did that much damage in that instant to my mage. I feel like, so that guy jumps out. And then I think he goes over and like melees my mage. I have no idea how he took that big smack of damage. But there, that was another death that I feel like I could have saved him if I sequenced my stuff better. But that's just a matter of I should have been more okay with committing a cooldown there. I should have been okay with pressing Revival. And I think in my mind I was trying to save it for boss. You see there, we use our B-Res on him. And here I use my Shaylin's Gift. We're still spreading hots to get rid of this gas bag. And then I'm just leaning into those hots to let them do their job. Instead of slamming Vivifies into everyone to top them up fully, I'm just letting those hots do their job because I saw that gas bag was going down. And I'm just cranking damage, trying to be as mana efficient as possible because I don't know how we're going to chain into boss. If we chain into boss here, it can get a bit spooky if I'm low on mana, because this boss takes forever. But here I just put Ring of Peace on my casters, and I kind of hang out in that Ring of Peace for safety. Drink up some tea, and then I'm going hunting. We're going to do some damage to this Putrid Butcher. Pop my Thunder Focus tea. We're dumping that dot. We go from 700k DPS. Let's see how much that dot takes us up to. 750. Pretty standard damage, though. But you see just how much damage Rushing Wind Kick does. Like, I really want to do more exploring, but I don't think Rushing Wind Kick has a place in a Chi-Ji build. I think like Jade Empowerment is just too important to that build, and Jade Fire Teachings is, you can't play that build without Jade Fire Teachings, obviously. But this build, like, I'm trying to find ways to play without it, and it is a lot riskier, sure. But this boss is very annoying. You have to be really on top of, like, CCing the ads. Since this, I've gotten better at, you can kind of, like, hang out in max melee range and just do loops around the boss. And anything that jumps at you doesn't hit you. You basically dodge it in time. But in this VOD, I did not know that. But I actually learned that in the key that I showed you earlier. The stats for. I just accidentally ran into that, and I was like, whoa, you can do this? You can just circle around the boss? Pretty OP. See here, just trying to do as much damage as possible, and then I am reacting to the damage that's happening, because that makes it the most mana efficient, which it does make it risky. Like, if all three of these guys were to jump on the mage would probably die. But if I waste mana and hot him up and then nothing jumps on him, then it kind of is a waste. So just trying to do as much damage as possible, trying to do some CC to these ads, and then just heal after the damage happens. And it is very sketchy, but this boss is just, regardless, it's very sketchy. Dude, this guy has so much health. Like, so much health. So I'm doing whatever I can to help us burn through that health bar. You see here, everyone took damage. We all got cleaved by that jump. So I just go ahead and commit Yu'lon. Which means that the rest of this fight, I will not have Yu'lon. But luckily, I made it long enough to where our revival is off cooldown. You see there, we could have lost the mage because I stepped in the silence puddle. Ooh. We are low, so I drop Ring of Peace, blocking the ads from being able to jump toward my casters, and then I top them up as quickly as possible. But this is another great example of the whole, like, passive versus active healing thing. You see that I actively have to stop my damage to go and heal, and that is a downside to this build comparing it to Chi-Ji. Like, Chi-Ji, the Chi-Ji build, the standard build, I would sit there and still just keep up my damage rotation. My damage rotation would do more passive healing to top up everyone. Like, one blackout kick there would have topped up everyone, but instead I had to Soothing Mist, Enveloping Mist, Vivify. Like, it is a big downside. But you see here, my tank did get clipped by the noodles, the big sky hook noodle things. So I did have to Soothing Mist him, which is another perk to this build. I can just hop into a Soothing Mist and slam some big healing. Oh, another person gets hooked. Dude, that ramen claiming victims. But once again, I have so many hots on him. I don't have my insurance buff on him, but I did have a Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, my Soothing Mist, and my Jade Fire Statue, or Jade Statue's Soothing Mist too. So huge single target healing. And you'd be surprised at how much healing Soothing Mist does. I'm pretty sure I do show the meters at the end of this, but it does a lot of healing. But here we finally are taking out Gore Chop. Dude, this guy takes forever. I will say, I do think, looking back on this, I do think our group as a whole got kind of lucky on who the ads kept jumping to. They didn't fully, like, commit to one person and just, like, nuke one person. I've seen runs where that happens, where, like, you have 4 ads up and all 4 jump on the same person. It's like, if you don't roll out of that or dodge it, you're just dead, you know? But that's kind of a thing with every build. Like, no healer except for Disc Priest can really prevent that, or if I life cocoon that person preemptively. But this is another great example of a pool where if I were running the Chi-Ji build, I could pop Chi-Ji and maybe spin it, or at least like Tiger Palm, and then spin until, you know, I need to blackout kick. But here, I have to pop Yu'lon, and I'm doing no damage. You look at damage meters, I'm still at 0. Because I'm spreading hots with Yu'lon. Maybe Yu'lon's doing damage. I have no idea what's doing damage. Oh, a Rushing Wind Kick to extend the hots. But like these Soul Storms, I have to actively heal with this build, and that's a big downside because If my group wasn't doing so much damage right now, we would get 2 Soul Storms versus Portal Guardian. You know what I mean? I hope that's coming off correctly. I think I'm saying that right. Yeah, we were luckily able to kill that Portal Guardian before it did another Soul Storm. But that could be a bad pull. But you see there, even I end that pool with 500k DPS overall. On that pool, because I did when you swap to your damage, you do so much burst damage with those rushing wind kicks, with spinning crane kicks, that you do kind of start to make up for it. But here on this pool, I'm really watching people to see if I need a Tiger's Lust anyone, if I need a Ring of Peace to stop these channels. But for the most part, passive healing, a-okay. I do put an Enveloping Mist on them. I do extend it to make sure they get topped up, just for safety, but I really did not need to do that. Pools like this, those fat. Watch my DPS just jump here from one rushing wind kick. Oh, I guess it didn't. Never mind. It didn't jump. That's embarrassing. But God, just so much damage on these medium-sized pools. You just rushing wind kick just cranks. Here's another very scary pool. Another Soul Storm pool. You're going to see me treat it the exact same. I am going to get my verse buff from Rushing Wind Kick. Try to get a little bit of damage off before this guy goes into a Soul Storm. But now he's Soul Storming. I am fully swapped to healing. I am in healing mode. I did Rushing Wind Kick to extend the hots again. Literally just like you do in like a Raid Yulon build. Ooh, Mage drop's pretty low. Before I got to Life Cocoon them, they did pop there. What's the Mage self-heal time, alter time? Ooh, our tank almost fell there to a Bone Spear. That was risky chain pulling when you don't have CC as the tank. But here, just using all the utility in my kit, trying to use like Para. I've already used both my AoE stops, my kick, trying to stop all these casts. Huge, scary pool, but once again, I lost a lot of damage on this pool. You see, I'm only at 580k, only doing 32 million damage there, because I had to spend so much time in a Soothing Mist. So once again, another downside, but hey, at least we survived. I am the healer. I did my job of healing. And I will say that those big burst AoE healing mechanics do feel a lot safer with this build, but they happen, like you risk them happening again, like another phase of a boss or something. Like if you're fighting Big Mama in Operation Floodgate, like you do a lot less damage on those kinds of fights where it's just giant AoE bursts. Because you do have to actively heal instead of passively heal, and actively give up on doing damage during those moments. Here we got a lot of casts going off. A lot of us have that debuff. I am slowed, but we got leg sweep. Doing what we can. Now I've just been like, you know what, screw it. I'm tired of thinking. We are spinning. Which I probably should have been doing from the get-go here. I didn't need to do all the Soothing Mist nonsense. We could have just spun. And that is a big upside with this build. I'm playing... a lot of people were like, why are you running Jadefire Stomp? Like, this build does not commit to full caster. And it's like, I mean, you could if you're like deep into the lore. If you're like, I want to have the theme of playing a full-on caster monk. I get that. But I'm trying to like optimize. And I think the Jadefire Stomp gives a lot to this build. It lets you get that passive healing on big pools where you just get to spin. It lets you reset your rushing wind kick way more often. This guy said Monka. I don't know why. But you know what I mean? I think the Jadefire Stomp and Awakened Jadefire adds a ton to this build. I really, really do. And I stand by that. And a lot of people are like, well, why not just drop rushing wind kick and play Jadefire Teachings? At that point, just play Chi-Chi. Like, here it's, you gotta, if you want me to play a caster, I'll play my best version of caster. I think this is close to it. This is definitely a dungeon where you can get away with Aspect of Harmony, though, or Master of Harmony. There are a lot of dungeons where I think, like, Conduit is just flat out the better play with this build. Like, even though you're losing a ton of damage, you'll see how much Aspect of Harmony damage you'll lose. Conduit is very solid with this build because you get a lot of shields. It complements your Soothing Mist damage mitigation kind of nicely. And you can really cycle your Life Cocoon a lot more often. And on top of that, Conduit, don't forget, it gives you a lot of mana. You see, this is the upside of why dungeons like this that allow you to play Master of Harmony. This is the upside. You do a ton of damage with Master of Harmony, plus Rushing Wind Kick. And if you're crazy, plus Jade Empowerment, like you can do a ton of damage with this build. But like I said, I hope it's coming across that, like, you know, I'm not saying this is better than Chi-Ji. I think this is better than the standard Chi-Ji build. I think I'm close to optimizing this version of Mistweaver. But as you can see, what was holding it back in the past was its damage, and that is not as much of an issue nowadays. We have a lot of tools to do damage. Here on these ads, I like to just spinning crank kick them. On the standard Chi-Ji build, I like to Jade Empowerment them, like Crackling Jade Lightning. But with this build, I'm like, you know what? That's 6 targets, the boss plus these ads. I am spinning and countering those dots. But you see now that we go to the wells, the big dots, peer into peace, baby. Soothing Mist, double Enveloping Mist, and then just alternate Vivifies. Top them up, and then you're good to go. And if you see that they pop major defensives, you can just put Soothing Mist on them, Enveloping Mist, and then just Rushing Wind Kick, and those hots alone can kind of heal through it. I trusted my butt to not get touched by that orb there, though. But I mean, it is nice where I don't have to like full on commit a cooldown for that, but then you'll see like I go this whole fight without using Yulon, like why not just commit? I don't know. I guess it is nice to use Peer into Peace for that, but then again, like there is an argument where I could have just used Yulon and it would have been a lot safer. But here I use Yulon for this one, and you see, even then, it's not super safe. Because I think, yeah, the Druid did end up using a defensive, but they waited quite a bit. But with this build, still, like, yes, I'm flopping between healing and damaging, depending on the mechanics, but you still see I'm keeping up pretty competitive damage. And I say competitive, I mean competitive with the standard build. Like, this is about what I did with my Chi-Ji build on this boss, because Rushing Wind Kick just does more damage than Rising Sun Kick. So it's like your peaks are higher, but your valleys are much lower, whereas the other build is just all flat in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like constant damage that you're doing. But good thing about this build is, like I said, Peer into Peace, a big Soothing Mist, big hots, like better Renewing Mist coverage if you care about that. Better at healing these 2 target moments. So I do kind of want to try out this build in a Cinderbrew meadery. Like if I ever can get invited to a Cinderbrew 16, that's step 1, then I definitely will try out this build, because I think like that first boss would be a great test. I've already tested this build in time to 16 Dark Flame and Rookery. Basically all the easy ones except for Motherlode. Timed all those, but I really think Cinderbrew might be the dungeon where this build struggles the hardest. But as you see, we're coming upstairs with 6.5 minutes left. That's about where you would want to be. I think we're pretty on pace to kill this just in time. So I'm going to do what I can here. I'm going to drink and top up my mana because that's step 1. But I'm going to do what I can once I finally engage into this combat to kill this Ritualist as quickly as possible. So I soothe one of the 2 guys that's enraged, just to lighten the load on the tank a bit, and then I am full on sending damage on this Ritualist. And you see here, I've already caught up on damage. So yeah, there was some downtime drinking, but we are back on the meters. Because Rushing Wind Kick just smacks, dude. It does so much damage. I wish it didn't share a node with Jade Fire Teachings, but I get it. Like, I totally get it. Because imagine how much healing a Rushing Wind Kick would do if it also got the Jade Fire Teachings bonus. That would be disgusting. Here, I am sticking to the ads here because I just want it to be a single target fight as long as possible, just to reduce risk. But that is kind of creating a risk of the timer. Whereas if I put my damage into Mordrotha, then it'd make the timer a little safer. Here for this, I like this build here because I can spread hots before then, and then I can connect a Soothing Mist on the tank there to mitigate some of that Reaping Scythe and that big slam damage on myself and the tank, so that is a pretty nice perk of playing Elusive Mist, but then again, you can play Elusive Mist in either build. It's just here we're incentivized to kind of to use Peer in the Peace and stuff. There, I kind of missed that Reaping Scythe. I usually try to Soothing Mist my tank for the Reaping Scythes, just for that little bit of mitigation. You never know if it'll come in handy, but it could change their like cooldown math. But here, this one without the add circles is pretty chill. I can just apply some dots or some hots, and then let them kind of, you know, spill into our health bars. But here I'm trying to dump my dot to kind of keep racing the boss, because we want the boss to phase a little bit after this ad set. Here it got a little sloppy. We were kind of dancing with the DH there, but we just boop them in, we're fine. Yeah, as you see here, we're coming up on like 55%, so really trying to avoid like a one-shot overlap here. Pretty spooky frontal there. Once again, just our hots alone plus our damage rotation is keeping everyone pretty topped up, and then every now and then when someone takes a big smack damage, I am swapping a Soothing Mist there. But I don't know why I'm drinking Mana Tea there. I think I'm just like really scared, like I really want to have mana here for this phase, but no, we were so fine on mana. But Yuloning this big overlap, just like I would Chi-Ji the big overlap, spreading those hots, vivifying everyone up really quickly, hotting up the tank, and then just smacking for some damage. And then I get to really watch my positioning. I think we lose someone to one of the charges here, so another dumb death of this run. But so far, so good. See, people are kind of starting to rot a little bit to this phase damage, but we're just going to cocoon. I am out of defensives here, so this is a little spooky. But luckily I have Shayloons and Revival. And here we're going to rip Shayloons there. Stunning the ads. There we do lose the Druid to a charge. There I like to hug the wall if I can, and if I do bait the frontal, then I'll position otherwise. But there he tried to just get to the boss's butt, and that was a bad spot. Here we have Yulon up again, because I am running 1 minute Yulon with this build. I've really considered running 2 minute like Jade Bond with this build, and I think it probably would be better. But I don't know. I think it's, you know, it's getting the job done. Just being very careful of the frontal. Here we have Lust. This boss is about to get cooked. I'm like, I have Shayloons, I have Revival. We're going to spread some hots and then pop one of those 2 cooldowns and then just bake damage into this boss. Not even. I haven't even pressed either of those buttons. Could have just pressed Revival and just smacked damage. But you see there, overall, 779k. Not bad for a caster build. I mean, think about what caster was able to do in Dragonflight. Not much. Like, you just weren't competitive in damage. But now the way that the talents have been rearranged, Master of Harmony, like a lot of things allow you to still kind of catch up in damage. Like, you don't get to constantly pump damage like the Chi-Chi build, like I've said 1,000 times this video, but when you do damage, it's worth it. And you see there, our damage breakdown, Rushing Wind Kick, out damaging Aspect of Harmony. And yeah, Aspect of Harmony is like a window that we have, whereas Rushing Wind Kick is like it's, you know, we always have it like every few seconds. But huge damage. You see here, even like still, our Spinning Crank damage was much lower than I think it should have been. I definitely should have spun on more packs. But huge damage, huge damage. Now, I will say, I'm pretty sure Overwhelming Force doesn't work with Rushing Wind Kick. Maybe one of you can correct me there, but so we do, when you play this build, you do lose a bit of Overwhelming Force damage, where Rising Sun Kick would proc it. I'm pretty sure that doesn't work. But ever since apparently they fixed Aspect of Harmony with Rushing Wind Kick, boom, I am blasting. Like, we are doing so much damage. And then here you're going to see the healing breakdown. Hopefully I show it. But also you'll see I'm not running the DPS sockets, the citrine ring socket things. Nowadays I probably would do this in Mythic Plus, swap over to some damage rings. But here's the healing breakdown. Still, Ancient Teachings at the top, without even running Crackling Jade Lightning, without running Jade Fire Teachings. You see just how much damage we do and how much we can lean into our passive healing in a dungeon like this. But you see Insurance with this build does so much healing. so much healing because you're allowing that hot to get some healing done. Also, I'm casting Enveloping Mist a lot more often, so we're getting a ton of free Renewing Mist, a ton of free insurance buffs. So much healing from insurance. You see Renewing Mist as the third healing source. That's because we're playing Jadefire Teachings, because once again, we're getting a lot of free Renewing Mists from our Rushing Wind kicks, plus Enveloping Mist casts. And then you see the big trio, Vivify, Enveloping Mist, Soothing Mist. That is our active healing that I was doing, coming in for like, you know, second place basically. Our active healing did add up to a ton. But Soothing Mist, like I said, it does a lot of healing. I did a dungeon the other day with this build. Soothing Mist was my top healing source. It was a scarier dungeon than Theater of Pain, where I had to actively heal a lot more often. But yeah, you see also I'm running the healing rings. I'm running Restorative Zap. That's the trinket, the Mr. Pick Me Up. So I do have a lot of passive healing from my items coming in to really help supplement this build where it lacks, which is passive healing. But all in all, pretty awesome dungeon. We timed a plus 16 with some time to spare. We had a few very stupid deaths that kind of took away from our timer, but I still was able to do some pretty good damage in this dungeon, and overall I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, I'm still kind of working, testing, and developing this build. I'm trying to optimize it as much as it possibly can and find its ceiling. And if you're someone who either like casually likes to play Mistweaver, or you just love the fantasy of playing like a caster Mistweaver, or you just want to change things up and we're playing a video game and you want to have fun and play a fun build, give this one a try. It's a lot of fun. Once again, not saying it's better than any other build, so pitchforks down, please. But guys, if you like this video and if you want to see a guide of this build, I will be making that soon. So let me know that you want to see that down in the comments below. Let me know what you want from that guide, like certain parts that you want to see, like best items, things like that go with this build, and I'll definitely include that into the guide. Let me know all that and more in the comments, but make sure you like this video if you liked it, and make sure you're subscribed on the way out. We're coming close to like 14K, like huge numbers of subscribers, so I would love to hit that before the end of season 2. That would be huge. But guys, as always, check out my streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Central. We are ramping back up again for a big push for title, as well as getting all of our alts grinded. And I have a series starting soon, so stay tuned for that. But guys, thank you so much for the support. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I thought it was a lot of fun. This build is a ton of fun, and it's putting up numbers that are surprising even me. So I appreciate y'all's support. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.